What's up, meaningful movers? Welcome back to Moving with Meaning, the podcast where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, we're going down a winding road. Don't worry, there is wisdom along the way, but you know how we do it here. We need to set that theme, so let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is generosity. It's amazing how much we are in the tunnel vision, that is. We get so focused on our own survival that we miss opportunities to inspire and give back. I get it. Trying to make it day to day in our own lives can be overwhelming, and yet there are these micro moments to demonstrate a small act of selflessness. It always comes back around, I say. Well, that's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than himself. Daryl, why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you're going to share with us today?
Thank you, Krystal. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I know we're going to have a wonderful discussion, and my background is, try to be somewhat brief. It's been a bit that I've been walking around this planet. I come from a very blue-collar background. I was raised in the Midwest, and that whole Protestant work ethic thing was something that was handed to me as I was a young person and put to work early as a kid. That was kind of my background. Strict parents, just you got to do the right thing. You know, the right manners, the right work ethic, the right beliefs, all of those things from a religious perspective. So that's how I started. And my story really went off the rails after I was 13 and I got involved in drinking and drugs and became an unruly kid and, just went down this path of self-destruction, and things escalated to the point where I was really in trouble as a 17, 18-year-old and just doing a lot of destruction to myself and to my loved ones, and the relationships that I had were all failing. The only relationships that were still intact were the people that I used with. So that was the going off the rails part of my story, which was a long time ago. There was an intervention, for lack of better terminology, and I was put into a treatment center at the ripe old age of 19 and have been working on this life thing ever since. So for me, the story really starts at the age of 19 when I started moving and started trying to figure things out and started trying to be a different and a better human being.
Yeah.
That's in a nutshell. That's where I come from.
That's good. I mean, you know what? It's always good to see that there is the silver lining. We're always going to go through something. There's always going to be a little bit of chaos. So we're going to kind of do what you said before, just kind of go off the rails. Sometimes we try to trace it back. Did you try to do that? Did you try to trace back? Why did I get into this? Did I feel that I didn't belong or I wanted to fit in? Did I feel like I was not getting enough attention? Is there something like that had any impact on you or any influence?
I believe so. And no fault of anyone in my life. I feel like having had a fairly strict upbringing, I think there was a part of me that I didn't ever feel like I was doing enough and didn't ever feel like I was measuring up. And when you're young, it's easy to fall into that trap, I think. No fault of parenting or anything like that, because our parents are, I think, supposed to help us be better and help us grow and help us change and help us do the right things. And, they're not given a handbook. They did the best they could with what they had. As I look back, and I've looked back now for almost 40 years, and the insecurities that I had seem to be more glaring and were more glaring as they went away. As they went away in my current life, they became more glaring in my previous life. And the problem is with addiction, and any addiction, it doesn't matter, but with my addictions, the hole gets deeper. For me, I just kept digging and I kept doing the wrong things and it perpetuated itself. So what may have been the insecurities and inability to cope that I started with, the drinking and the drugs and that sort of thing, just got deeper and deeper and became more and more this sort of monster in my life that at the point I became sober, I needed to overcome.
Yeah. I know you wrote a book about this, so I'm not going to ask too many questions, but I want to tease people to go ahead and get this book. So a lot of times, what I think and what I think when I've come across other people who have gone through addiction or in addiction, there's this undercurrent or this admission that no one really talks about. But I know when I had my addiction with alcoholism, I really thought I had control of it. I knew when I was under the influence, like I knew, right? And I knew that I was trying to be cognizant of my behavior or the things that I was saying or who I was interacting with. I mean, I remember I was sick and I couldn't drive. And I had my friends there with me. It was at this bar. There was this guy that liked me. And he was fighting with one of my best friends because she was trying to take me to her home so that she can watch over me. I'm like, man, that's a lot to ask for somebody, because she had to watch me all night because I was sick. And you know how people can die from this. And I was like, can I just go home? I just want to go home. And it was like this vague memory. But I remember him and her arguing on who the hell was going to take me home. It was weird because I'm like, why would she ask me this question at this moment? She knew what I was going to say, but she was trying to like get him to stop. And he wanted to take me home to take care of me. And she was like, Krystal, do you want me to take you home or do you want him? And I was like, you. But I also remember in my head, I'm like, do I look like I could answer a question like that?
Sure.
Right? So, but I was just always, in my opinion, I was like, gosh, I was just really aware of my surroundings until it just got so bad that I wasn't. Did you ever feel like you were in a place where you were like, I have control over this? I can stop if I want to.
It's interesting because there's so many definitions that I was presented with, and I think most people in some sort of addiction are presented with. And one of the most difficult things for me to get my head around when I became sober was, because I got involved in the 12 steps and that sort of thing, and that was really helpful for me as far as a path. But they said that I needed to admit that I was an alcoholic. And I was 19. I mean, I was just barely 19. So there wasn't much that I could admit about anything or understand about anything at that point in my life. And little did I know how little I knew, but that became more and more apparent to me over time. So to answer the question, I would say I really didn't, and I don't remember. There's a lot of blank spots. There's a lot of things that I just don't remember. But I never really looked at it in those times while I was using like it was something that I needed to control. I was ready to go anytime, anywhere. Let's do what we do. Let's drink, let's smoke, let's do whatever we do. And so there wasn't really a need for me, or I didn't know that there was a need for me to control it. Now, did I get in a lot of bad situations and a lot of trouble and this and that? Yeah, I did. But I didn't relate it to the drinking and the drugs. I just related it to bad luck or, oh, that happened and that wasn't any fun. And, oh, we better not do that again. Those kinds of things. I think so much of that had to do with my youth, had to do with just being a kid. I feel like if I was 40 or 50 when I was trying to get sober, or even, maybe in my 30s, I could have swallowed some of those things. And I'm sure it would have come up for me, hey, I got to knock this off. But that wasn't a big thing for me.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. I just have mixed experiences, I guess, with whether it's easier when you're young or the longer you're in, like in your 40s doing the drugs or what have you, which one's easier to get help. And I don't know if it's really about that. It's just about, are you tired, right? Are you aware? Are you sick of living like this? Like you want more out of life. And I know that this isn't it. Like this is not cutting it. And then some people don't want to give that up. They want to be young forever. They want to be in this blissful state forever because God forbid I have to go back into real life. God forbid that I have to deal with adulting, or
Yeah.
all of these things. And so it's a remarkable feat at a young age, just kind of based off of what you just said. You're young and you're a kid. You're not trying to admit these things because, like you said, I'm just having fun. You don't recognize it as an issue. Also, coming out of it with the attitude that you did. Before we go to the point of your attitude, what was your point of not looking back is the way I would look at it. This is the point where I need to make the choice. What was it that felt in you that said, hey, I need to stop?
There was a meeting or a scheduled meeting set up for me to talk with a drug and alcohol counselor that I was just absolutely scared to death to do, didn't want to do, didn't know I was going to do it, whether or not I was going to do it. But anyway, the appointment was scheduled, and there were a couple of points for me that happened that changed my mindset and changed the way I thought about myself, my life. Not as much about the drinking and drugs, but myself and my life. So I decided to go talk to this counselor, and that was part part of that intervention. I walked into his office. He basically said to me, and I was planning on lying, just being the same dude I had been, full of you know what.
Yeah.
That was just me. Lying, cheating, and stealing was my way. So I was planning on lying to him, and I walked into his office. He said, "You can't lie to me. Don't BS me. Just don't, because I'm not having it, and I will boot you out of here, and that'll be that." And he intimidated me. I was impressionable at that point. I was scared. He intimidated me. And I was as honest with him as I could be at that point in my life. And whatever that was, I have no idea what I said. But I do know that I was as honest with him as I could be at that point in my life. And I listened to what I said, and I was feeling what I was saying, because honesty, it had not been something I'd been practicing. So I was paying attention to that. And at the end, I said, "What do you think, Doc?" And he said, "Well, you need to get into treatment." So there was a short window between when I had that meeting and when I actually went into treatment. And that window crossed over New Year's Eve of 1984 into New Year's Day of 1985. I remember being at a New Year's Eve gathering. I don't remember where it was. I just have these little vague recollections, but I do remember how I felt. And I was pretty sure I didn't want to be on this planet anymore. That's how I felt. And that was a point for me where something shifted. So between that meeting with this counselor and that New Year's Eve of 1984 going into 1985, something in me broke. Something in me said, "I'm not able to do this anymore." And then I went into treatment 2 days later.
Okay. Did you have any relapses when you did the treatment or anything like that? I'm just asking because I'm telling you now, it was hard for me. So I just didn't want to accept, well, one, the choice was taken from me, and I didn't want to accept that. I just don't want to deal with the trauma. I don't want to deal with my shadows. I didn't want to deal with anything. And so it was very difficult for me to let that go. Did you have anything like that? Or was it just like one step straight through and I'm good to go?
I was not good to go, but from the day I went into treatment, I have not drank or drugged since that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Why you call yourself a late blooming author? Tell me what you talking about?
Well, I had all the material to write a book, but I didn't start really writing my book until 2023.
You kept all your notes?
You know, everything was in here. Everything was inside me.
Oh, okay.
I had mentioned to my wife probably 20 years ago, after I told her some of the stories of my youth and escapades and et cetera, and she's kind of looking at me like, "You're not that guy anymore." I was like, "No, I am not. I'm not that guy anymore. You know, I can still be a clown. I can still be a whole lot of things. You know, I can be a maniac. I can take things to extremes, all that sort of stuff. That's built in to me. The difference is I do my best not to hurt myself or anyone else." So as I was relating some of these stories to my wife, I said, "Remind me to write a book someday." And so she did a couple times, and I probably got about 3 paragraphs written in the next 20 years until the beginning of 2023, which is when I ardently decided to write a book.
Awesome. And what's the title of your book?
The title of the book is When I Stop Fighting. The subtitle is The Unexpected Joy of Getting My Head Out of My Ass.
Oh, okay. All right. And this is all about your experience with recovering from addictions over a course of decades?
It is. Life started for me then. I needed everything that happened prior to that, but that was really the beginning of me being a different human. And it's not immediate, right? As we know, the growth in life is a journey, and it's ups and it's downs, and it's successes and failures, and it's learning and it's not learning, and it's praying and it's not praying, and it's a whole bunch of things. It's practicing daily habits and it's not practicing daily habits. So all of those ups and downs and, you know, everything that happened, I did my best to capture for the purpose of that other people might be able to relate to my story, especially maybe young folks, and find some help in the words.
For sure. So you've gotten on a mission to give back. I like this term that you mentioned here is that you were given opportunity to give opportunity. Tell me, what does that mean to you?
So much of my life now has a thread running through it of gratitude, and I am truly, truly grateful for everything that I've experienced, everything that I've been given, in terms of life and the beauty that surrounds me and the love that's in my life and all of those wonderful things and the mentors that I've had. There's just so much that I'm grateful for. And I feel like I've been given the opportunity to live a life that I never would have been able to understand or believe that I could have or experience. I just didn't know that that was possible. To wake up in the morning as I wake up in the morning and to love my life and those sorts of things. I just didn't know that was possible. So I've been given that opportunity, and everything that I've learned from starting in sobriety till now, and really is understanding that the way to continue in my life in the trajectory that it's been on for a long time is to give back and to help other people. It doesn't have to be just sobriety. There's been so many things that I've learned in this life, as far as business and relationships and health and all of the things that contribute to waking up in the morning with a smile on my face. All of those things are a rounded life that I can feel good about. And so giving those things back and helping people understand what's most important in life. And that's an opportunity that was given to me to be able to pass on. For me, the way that I continue to pass that on is how I continue to experience those things and grow myself.
When you're saying you're passing this on, you're contributing, is it through coaching, or are you volunteering at a youth center or anything like that? How are you gracing others with your lived lessons and continuous improvement?
I've made conscious effort through most of my life and most of my sobriety and / recovery to just help as many people as I can. I've done a lot of business training and sales training and, life training, not for money, not as a job, not as anything other than just a desire to help. So I've done that for a long, long time. And I coached a lot of people to different areas of success in their lives, which has been wonderfully fulfilling for me. My book is a huge part of that too. My book is not honestly for me to make money. It's to get out there and so people can read it. That's really what it is at this point. But for me, it's really important to remember the very, very simple things that I contribute to this world. Starts with me. If I don't have me right, I'm not contributing to the world like I could. So the best thing that I can do, is not to give X number of dollars to this charity or, those sorts of things. And we've done a lot of that stuff, but it's to get myself in the right place where I don't have road rage. I try to give smiles where I can. I look at people and I treat them right, and I treat everybody right that walks into my life. And how do I do that? I'm able to do that because I enjoy my existence. Does that make sense? That it's all those tiny little things that we either can do or aren't capable of doing on a daily basis, but how we get to do those and how we have the opportunity to do those is by taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're putting the best person on the planet every day. And that's for our kids, and that's for our spouses, and that's for our parents, and that's for everybody that touches our lives. To me, that's how we give back. That's how we give back in meaningful ways that hits people, right in the heart every single day in real life.
Yeah, it does make sense. I mean, it's just really, frankly, just showing up every day. And I know many people do who are probably not having the same struggle that we're talking about, but this could be folks who are struggling just to make ends meet, right? And trying to put food on the table, trying to get their kids to better schools, and the list goes on, all the things. You have this statement here, not worrying about yourself allows you to be selfless. I really like that. You want to comment on that one?
Sure. For me, that's so much of what I had to pay attention to in my life was getting my own head out of my ass, right? That had to do with getting sober, but it also had to do with after I got sober, that's when the work really started. And we have to pay attention and we have to do the right things and we have to sort of pull in our horns and decide, okay, how are we going to go about this life from this point forward? We learn a little and we apply a little, we learn a little, we apply a little. And they say, during those times, we have to be selfish. We have to pay more attention to ourselves because we have to get it together. For me, that was absolutely 100% true. But as we go and as we learn, and I'll put it in the context of me, but as I continued and as I learned and as I grew and as I applied and as I explored and really sought to change my life, and I still do that. I do that today. But I don't have to worry about me anymore. And that's a great place to be because then I'm more able, in my opinion, to give and to forget about myself. And I'm not walking around with my head down thinking about all my problems. I don't feel like I'm all balled up or I don't have that hole in the middle of me that I have to be concerned about, that I have to fix. So that's what it means to me. It means not having to think about me all the time, do my daily stuff. I do the habits that, give me the life that I have internally. I do those things consistently, daily, and then I don't have to worry about it. Like we talked about earlier, can I give that smile? Can I be nice to people, whether it's just a random person or somebody at the gas station or a server or whatever it is? Am I out of myself and my own stuff enough to be able to pay attention to them and give them something?
Well, why contribute to the charity if you are the charity? I really like that. I got some too. I got stuff too. Right? We. So, Daryl, you have graced us with an enormous amount of selflessness today. Do you have any golden nuggets that you want to add some ketchup just to recap?
I do. There's a story that I love, and it was so meaningful to me. It was many, many years ago as I was just getting on my feet in sobriety. So I'm going to say I was less than a year sober. As I mentioned, I went to 12-step meetings, and I went quite frequently to 12-step meetings. And there was a meeting on Friday night at the community center in a nearby city that we would go to. And it was me and some of the sober guys around my age, not necessarily that close, but some of them were, that we'd go to this meeting. And it was a pretty popular meeting, and we'd see a bunch of people there that we knew. And it was just this great sort of gathering and great meeting. And there was this gentleman there, and his name was Jimmy. And he was, at that time, about 40 years sober. He was an older gentleman. He was probably in his 70s somewhere. He walked a little hunched over and walked slow. But he was 40 years sober at that time. And to us, he was like a deity. Jimmy was just, wow. And he didn't say a lot. But when he did, I certainly perked up and listened. Jimmy was the only person at that meeting, and he did it every single time we went to that meeting, but he would walk around with the coffee pitcher and fill up everybody's coffee. Whether it was somebody who was a day sober, a month sober, 10 years sober, 20 years sober, it didn't matter. Jimmy didn't care, and he would just fill up people's coffee. And he was a very selfless and service-oriented human being. And one of the things that he said that I hung on to, I put this in my book, but he said, if you want to stay sober and if you want to move forward in life and you want to really make a difference, you have to stay small. It took me a while to get my head around that, but what he was saying, and I've carried it with me since that time, you have to stay small means you have to be humble, teachable, willing to learn, and, not be so full of answers and full of myself to where I think I got it. If I can go about my life in that way, there's a very good possibility that I will have success in many areas of life.
That's nice.
My golden nugget.
I like that. Good ending.
Thank you.
Well, that's the episode today. Has your life taken on some unexpected twists and turns? Have you made decisions that have affected others around you and kept you in bondage for years? Now, when I say bondage, I am referring to keeping yourself hidden, your true self. Those reasons can vary, But through the emergence of the captivity, you come out better than who you were when you went in. You must know that. Sure, there are amends that must be made, and you will make them. Through every turn or misdirection, you've learned something that you can mentor, teach, and guide others. This is not to say that they will not have their own trials and tribulations, but you can be a beacon, an anchor, a resource, or the lighthouse for them to find their way through the dark. That's why I appreciate Daryl for sharing his experience and lessons learned, which ultimately led him on his mission to give back. I hope Daryl's story has found its way to you and you find inspiration to give others the gift of your continuous improvement. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Daryl, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are and where they can find your resources or reach out to you.
Thank you, Krystal. I can be reached at my website. That's probably the sort of landing ground for most things in terms of my book, which is Daryl Dittmer, DarylDittmer.com. At that website, you'll find my email address, and please feel free to reach out. Always willing to lend a helping hand, guide if I can. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I can also be reached on social media. Twitter, my handle is at Daryl E. Dittmer. DarylEDittmer. Facebook and Instagram at When I Stop Fighting. So please feel free to reach out. And again, Krystal, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll make sure to include all of Daryl's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning, the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My YouTube channel is up. Kindly run over there and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning, the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.